Zara. It was Naledi from her study group, slightly breathless. There's a man outside your seminar room. Zara didn't look up from her notes. What man? A very expensive-looking man, she replied. Zara looked up. Through the glass wall of the seminar room she could see the corridor. And in the corridor, in a coat that had no business being in a university building, standing completely still while the entire hallway reorganized itself around him without him doing anything, was Kang Jisoo. He was watching her. She looked at him for exactly 1 second. Then she turned back to her presentation. Zara, who is he to you? Naledi asked. I don't have time for this, I have 12 more slides to work on, she said and concentrated on her work. She finished the presentation, she answered every question. She thanked her professor. She gathered her notes, picked up her bag and she walked out. She stopped when she saw him up close. Then she walked straight past him, close enough that he could have reached out, but her face showed no emotions. He turned. Behind her, the corridor had gone strange. She felt it before she understood it. The glances, the pulled-back posture. A student near the vending machine going pale and pulling his friend close and saying something fast and low. The energy on the floor shifting the way energy shifts when something has entered a space that doesn't belong there. Isn't that Kang Jisoo? What is he doing here? Are we in trouble? Questions like that flew around, but she ignored it and put her headset on. The box arrived at his building the next morning. Plain cardboard sealed neatly. His address in her handwriting. Every small thing he had given her over the weeks they had moved through this city together. The scarf from Insadong, the things from the Mapo dinner, the accumulated evidence of a person who didn't know how to say things and so said them sideways, through objects, through proximity, through showing up. All of it. Receipt still attached. Nothing missing. He lifted each item out. At the bottom of the box was a document. Several pages. Printed. And across every single page, her handwriting. She had documented herself. The way he had documented her. Page for page. Margin by margin. She had gone back through the entire investigation and answered it in her own hand, and put it at the bottom of a box beneath everything he had ever given her and sent it back without a word. He sat with the pages for a long time. Min Hyuk appeared in the doorway. Looked at the box, looked at Jisoo's face and left without saying anything. Zara was still in her coat when her phone rang. She picked up. Zara. Camille's voice was somewhere between laughing and losing her mind. Did you know our new landlord is your boyfriend? Zara went very still. Because I just signed a revised lease and the property management company changed and I googled the name at the top and I saw it. Send me the document. It arrived in 30 seconds. She opened it. Read it. Read it again. The building she lived in now belongs to Kang Jisoo, the man she was deliberately avoiding. She sat on the edge of her bed in her coat with her keys still in her hand and stared at her own name on a document she had never touched. In a building she had found herself. In a city she had come to specifically to be somewhere new and entirely her own. She set the lease down and decided to do the only normal thing left in a day. She turned on the TV. The news was already on. She wasn't watching it, not really. It was just light and sound, something to fill the room while she sat in her coat and tried to locate the edges of how she felt. The lease was on the bed beside her. Her phone was face down. Then she heard his name in the particular tone Korean news anchors use when the story is about money and power and the people who have too much of both. Kang Jisoo. She looked up. The screen showed a photograph, him formal, the version of him that belonged to the world she had only ever seen from the outside. Beside his photograph, another. A woman. Ruby Kingston. The name appeared in text beneath the image and then again in the headline scrolling across the bottom of the screen and then again in the reporter's mouth, patient and precise. Engagement between these two families has been confirmed. We wish them well as they embark on this journey of love. The reporter kept talking. Ruby Kingston, the headline said actress, but Zara knew. They belonged to the same world. She turned the TV off. The room went quiet. She sat with it for a moment. The quiet, the coat still on, the keys still in her hand, the lease still on the bed beside her. Then it dawned on her. With the particular clarity that arrives too late. The kind that only becomes visible when the door closes. She had feelings for him and she had not named them, not to Camille, not even to herself, but it didn't matter now. His name was on a screen beside someone else's. His world had already decided. She tried to think about it. Perhaps it was the night she had hugged him in the dark and said, I'll always be here for you, and he had said nothing because there was nothing he could say. That was the part that broke it open. It was the fact that he had held her and said nothing. The first tear came without warning. She wiped it away. Then the second, she wiped it and then she let it loose. She cried to her heart's content. She cried for the rooftop in Yuljiro and the 4 lines of a song she didn't know and the 2 cups on the coffee table that nobody moved. She cried for the girl who had walked into an alley in November with pepper spray and no survival instinct and somehow ended up here, on the edge of a bed in her coat, in a building that belonged to him, in a city that had never once looked up when she arrived. She cried until there was nothing left to cry, and then she sat in the quiet aftermath of it, that specific stillness that exists on the other side of feeling something completely, and she breathed. Okay, she told herself. It's okay. She had just grieved for something that had not quite existed and was somehow already gone. Her phone rang. She reached for it without looking. Camille, I get it already, you don't have to. It's me, Zara. Kang Jisoo's voice came through. She froze. What do you want? Please, give me a chance to explain. You have 3 minutes. I knew about the arrangement before I came back to you. I should have told you. I didn't, because I was trying to find a way out of it first. She said nothing. So he kept going. I bought the building because your lease was ending and you were in danger. I couldn't protect you in a building I didn't own. That's the whole truth. You made a decision about my life without asking me. Yes. To keep you safe. A beat. I didn't know you were someone's fiancé. It's not what it looks like. I have a plan, trust me, Zara. He paused. Can I see you tomorrow? No. Don't come back in front of me until everything is sorted out. She hangs up before he could say another word. Jisoo sat in the back of a car, phone still in his hand. City moving past the window. 5 years he'd been carrying something. Tonight, he decides what to do with it. His father didn't die of natural causes. The official story was clean. A powerful man, briefly ill, a peaceful death. Jisoo was 19. Young enough to be handed that story. Old enough to know something was wrong. One name kept appearing in his father's private records. The Kingston Group. 3 weeks before Zara walked into his life, he finally got his answer. The Kingston family had been working with a faction inside his father's own organization. Men who wanted the power transition to happen faster. It wasn't dramatic. A man already sick quietly helped toward the end, at the exact moment it suited the right people. The chairman didn't give the order. But he found out 3 days after, and said nothing. He thought silence would protect his best friend's son. Then years later, he tried to tie the Kingston name directly to Jisoo's future. Protection, he called it. Jisoo had been sitting on the file for 3 weeks. Locked in a drawer in his Hanamdong apartment. He had his moment now. See who finally appeared. The chairman smiled, signaling his men to give them privacy. Don't think about protesting the engagement. I moved things forward since you weren't going to. Jisoo sat down without a word. Opened the file. Pushed it across the table. The chairman read. First page. Second page. This was a man who had spent 50 years in rooms where files like this changed everything. He knew exactly what he was holding before he was halfway through. He put it down. Looked up. Jisoo was already looking at him. How long have you known? The night we buried him. The chairman's hands weren't steady. Your father was my closest friend for 30 years. I found out 3 days after he died. I kept it from you to protect you, and to protect what he built. The Kingston arrangement, I thought if I kept them tied to you I could control them. Take back what they stole from your father. Make sure what happened to him never happened to you. Jisoo looked at him for a long moment. You've done enough. I'll take it from here. Will you be okay? I was trained by the best too. A small smile. Being okay is a bonus. The chairman's voice dropped. Forgive me for keeping this from you, son. Jisoo looked at the old man. The one who took him in when everyone else refused. When they called him the son of a dangerous man. He picked up the file. The Kingston arrangement is over. I'll handle this alone. Trust me now. The chairman gave a slow nod. Jisoo stood. A small bow. And left. The flowers arrived at 8 a.m. White roses. No sender name. Just a small envelope tucked carefully between the stems. Zara opened the note. You asked me not to come before you until everything is sorted out. I guess I'll be seeing you in 24 hours. From your secret admirer. The laugh came before she could catch it, warm and sudden and completely against her will. Camille appeared in the doorway like she'd been waiting. Took one look at Zara's face. That's him, right? Don't start. You're smiling. You're actually laughing. Camille. What? Your whole face just changed. I watched it happen. Go inside. Camille was already backing through the door, grinning like she'd won something. I'm getting my camera. Don't you dare move. I have to document this moment. She was gone 90 seconds, but when she came back out, Zara was gone. Not gone like she'd stepped inside. Gone like the space where she'd been standing had been quietly closed off, the way a door shuts in an empty house. The white roses were still on the step. At the far end of the street, A black Range Rover moved away from the curb, hurriedly, like it was afraid of being seen. Camille's camera was already in her hand before her brain caught up with what her eyes were telling her. Then she raised her camera and clicked. She bent down to pick the flowers when she saw a crumpled piece of paper on the ground, right where Zara had been standing, like it had been left there on purpose. She picked it up with shaky fingers and read, "If you want your friend alive, call this number." 2 rings. Then an unbothered voice, unhurried, came through. "Deliver this message to Kang Jisoo in person. You have 2 hours. And the line went dead. Camille stood on the empty pavement holding a bunch of flowers and a crumpled note. She couldn't believe her situation. She had only gone for 90 seconds and everything went wrong. She didn't have his number, so she quickly went to her lease document and found out his company's address. 40 minutes later she was stepping out of an elevator onto the 14th floor of a building so quietly expensive it didn't need to announce itself. Still in the jacket she'd thrown on to take photographs that morning, camera still around her neck, note still in her fist. Before the receptionist could say anything, Camille opened her mouth. "I need Kang Jisoo. Tell him it's about Zara Okonkwo." She checked the time. "And tell him he has 1 hour and 15 minutes before that becomes past tense." "Do you have an appointment with him?" the receptionist asked. Min Hyuk showed up behind her and looked at Camille. He had overheard her. "Come with me," he said. Jisoo was mid-call when the door opened. He read Min Hyuk's face in under a second and ended it. Camille crossed the room and put the note on the desk without a word. Then she turned her camera around, the Range Rover caught mid-exit, plate partially visible at the edge of the frame. The silence in the room changed texture. Jisoo looked at the photograph for exactly 3 seconds. "How long ago?" "Just under an hour." "Min Hyuk, gather 20 men," he ordered, already on his feet. "I'm coming with you," she started to say. "No. She is my best friend," she protested. "I know." His voice didn't rise but didn't soften either. He looked at her, like he was seeing her clearly for the first time. "And I will bring her back to you." "That's not a promise. It's already decided." Camille held his gaze for a long moment. "Okay, I'll be waiting." The call came to Jisoo's personal line 2 minutes after Camille left his office. "I have just one demand, drop the investigation. Everything you've been building for 5 years, walk away from Kingston, publicly, formally on record, and she comes home tonight." Jisoo said nothing. "You have 6 hours. Come alone to the address we send. No men. No call. Just you and your decision. If she has a single mark on her, I won't." "You have 6 hours, Kang." Line dead. Min Hyuk was already looking at him. Jisoo looked at the address that came through 30 seconds later. A warehouse in Yangshan. Industrial block. 3 entry points. He knew the area. His father's organization used to run product through there before he cleaned it out. He picked up his car keys. "Jisoo, it's dangerous for you to go alone." "They said alone. If they see a team before I'm inside they move her or they hurt her." He picked up his coat. Min Hyuk looked at him for a long moment. "Stay safe, boss," Min Hyuk said. The warehouse looked exactly what it looked like from the outside, cold, industrial. The smell of rust and old concrete. Jisoo walked in through the main entrance with his hands visible because that was the language this situation spoke. He made a quick assessment for men inside. About 10 somewhere above, 4 at the entrance. She was at the center of the space, zip-tied to a chair, looking at him with the specific expression of someone who was furious and frightened and absolutely refusing to show the second one. She had a cut above her eyebrow that made his chest rumble. She opened her mouth. "Don't say a word," he said quietly. The man who called him stepped forward. The old Kingston himself, his confidence oozing like air itself. See who finally showed up. The man who thinks 5 years makes him untouchable. "You built something impressive, Kang. But you built it inside my reach," he said with a thin smile. "I came," Jisoo agreed. "Let's talk." "There's nothing to talk about. The investigation. Walk away from it. I need your word, on record, witnessed, legally binding, that the Kingston investigation dies tonight. And if I give you that, she walks out with you. And you get to live with what you buried to make that happen." Jisoo looked at Zara, then at the man. The silence stretched, not hesitation, calculation. 5 years. Names. Faces. Everything it cost. "All right," he said. And in the same breath, every light in the building went out. Min Hyuk's team came through 4 entry points simultaneously. 2 ground level, 1 upper, 1 through the loading bay at the back. Jisoo moved the moment the lights died. He had been counting the distance to Zara's chair since the second he walked in. He got to her quickly and unzipped her tie and pulled her up. She grabbed his hand. The building was noise and movement and the controlled organized chaos of 40 men who knew what they were doing. Jisoo moved Zara toward the loading bay, the clearest exit, the one Min Hyuk would have secured first. She was moving with him, keeping pace. They were 15 feet from the door when old Kingston pulled out his drawn weapon. You thought you could fool me? You walked in here like a man with a plan, but you didn't come alone. That was your mistake. Tell your dad I said hi when you see him. He yelled and clicked. Zara saw it before Jisoo did. She pulled him sideways hard, both hands the full weight of her, and it hit her instead. For 1 second they were pressed against the wall in the dark, breathing. His men winning in the background. We are even now, she said into his shoulder with a shaky voice. We're not even close, stay with me Zara, he said, shaking her up in his arms. I love you Kang Jisoo, too bad I only get to say it now, she said with a weak smile, and it all went black. She did not wake up that day. Or the next. On the third day the doctor explained that her body was simply finishing what it needed to. She would wake when ready, and all indicators were positive. Jisoo nodded once and returned to the chair beside her bed. He did not leave. Min Hyuk brought food. He ate without tasting. Brought updates. He processed them without reaction. The Kingston operation collapsed on the second day. Shipment intercepted. Accounts frozen. Leverage gone. Ruby Kingston was photographed at Incheon Airport at 6 a.m. on day 3. By evening the news was everywhere. Engagement dissolved. Empire destabilized. A carefully worded statement from the Kingston chairman that revealed more than it concealed. Jisoo watched all of it from the hospital chair beside Zara's breathing body. On the third morning the room was filled with white roses. He wanted the first thing she saw to belong only to her, white roses. And him. She came back slowly. Then her eyes opened. The room was full of white roses and Jisoo sat beside her. You're finally up, he said quietly, smiling weakly. You look terrible, she answered, scanning his face. You've been asleep 3 days. I was here the whole time, he said. Thank you. Always. He took her hand. She looked around the room, then back at him. What happened to Kingston? They're gone. Ruby left. It's over. He leaned forward slightly. It's done, Zara. I'm yours now. She nodded once. And for a moment nothing else mattered. Not the empire he had rebuilt, not the one he had dismantled, but the girl who had walked into an alley with pepper spray. 6 years later. She finished her last exam at 4:17 p.m. on a Thursday. 6 years, she said softly to herself, looking out with a smile as she set her pen down, then stood, picked up her bag and walked out. Camille was waiting outside. She ran into her immediately. Congratulations, my best friend, Camille said, holding her tightly. Zara froze slightly. Camille lived in Paris. She was not supposed to be here. Why are you here? You should be in Paris. And miss this? Come on. Get in the car. Zara narrowed her eyes. Is there something you're hiding? Don't look at me like that, Camille said. Just get in. In the car, Camille filled the silence. She talked about Paris. A man she was seeing, the flight, Korean air versus French air, the amazing food and places she visited. Zara listened to all of it and watched Seoul slide past the window, wondering why she had not been able to reach Jisoo all morning. The car stopped at Nodul Island. Why are we here? Zara asked. Wait, Camille said, already stepping out. Zara followed. Her mother was standing on the path. She stopped. Mummy. My baby. She crossed the distance without thinking. They held each other warmly. When Zara pulled back, she frowned slightly. How are you in Seoul? Her mother smiled. Well, someone sent a very nice plane. Zara turned. 6 men stood at careful distances. Jisoo's men. The chairman near the water. Min Hyuk behind them, deliberately looking anywhere else. And then Kang Jisoo walking toward her from the river. He stopped in front of her. Congratulations, Dr. Zara, he said, handing her red roses and pulling her into a brief hug. I thought you forgot. I could never. He stepped back, then went down on one knee. A sound escaped her mother. Camille covered her mouth. You walked into an alley with no plan. You were tied in a warehouse and looked at me like I was the one in danger. You saved me without meaning to. You became a doctor in a city that never knew your name. He opened the box. A diamond ring caught the light. Dr. Zara Okonkwo, he said, looking up. Will you marry me? Fireworks burst across the sky. Will you marry me? Glowed above them. Oh my goodness, yes I will. He slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a hug. Applause broke out. Camille shouted. The chairman nodded once. The beginning of everything settled into place. Zara laughed under her breath. Oh my goodness, yes I will. He slid the ring onto her finger and pulled her into a hug. Applause broke out. Camille shouted. The chairman nodded once. The beginning of everything settled into place. Zara laughed under her breath. Then she looked around again. This was no longer surprising. It was real, she was getting married to the Mafia King.